I'm going to just take a breath. Transition. So I thought I'd start with my section here, sharing by just inviting you to do a little practice song that we do in my tradition. We have a lot of practice songs that are very kind of childlike and help cultivate that child within us. And they're very good for 4-month-olds if you have one. So it goes like this. It goes in, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. So people try that, right? In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Okay. So that's part of a practice song that we have, and it really helped to cultivate a sense of steadiness in our breathing and a little sense of peace for ourselves that we can share. And so this is a interesting part of my practice that took me a little while to get used to, but really enjoy now, especially with the baby. So, my name is Nathaniel Vose. I am an ordained member of the Order of Inner Being in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about Thich Nhat Hanh, and about where this tradition came from. I'll tell you a little bit about my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. Many of you probably know him from his books, and maybe studied with him, practiced with him, sat with him. He was born in 1926. He joined the monkhood at age 16, and he really helped develop and found the engaged Buddhist movement within this country and within the world. He was very inspired by the war and the violence and destruction that he saw going on in his life and in Vietnam. In the 1960s, he founded the School of Youth and Social Services, helped rebuild Bon villages, set up medical centers, organized agricultural cooperatives, resettled homeless people. And he, despite government denunciation, he founded a Buddhist university, publishing house, peace activist magazine. And then he came to the United States to solicit our support in helping to end the war. Became great friends with Reverend Martin Luther King, was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King Jr. Became friends with Thomas Merton, many people, and spread his wings here, taught at Princeton and Columbia for a while. And he wasn't allowed back in his country after that. He was exiled. He sought refuge in France and started a community there. And Thich Nhat Hanh was exiled from Vietnam for 40 years until he was able to go back in 2006 for the first time back to his homeland. So his teaching has really been an inspiration out of this desire to relieve suffering, engage and bring Buddhism and engage it into the world and find practical ways that we can really bring this tradition into the lives of people to help alleviate suffering. So this tradition itself is a Vietnamese tradition. It's a kind of a mix of Zen and Pure Land. The lineage follows from Zen master Lin Chi, who's a Chan Buddhism in China, teacher in 1868 CE, and in Tang Dynasty, China. And Thich Nhat Hanh is of the 42nd generation, and his students are 43rd generation of this lineage, which comes from Linji. So one of the key teachings within this tradition that my teacher Tai teaches a lot is Drista Dharma Sukha Vihara. Drista Dharma Sukha Vihara, which means dwelling happily in the present moment. or dwelling happily with things as they are. So finding a way to dwell in this moment with things as they are happily, not getting carried away by the future, thoughts and worries about the future, regrets about the past, finding a way that we can really settle into this moment. I always loved one of the things he says is, we have enough conditions for happiness right now as they are. We don't need anything else. We just need to look a little bit more deeply, and we can find those things. So another key teaching of his is that of inner being, and he really helped cultivate this sense of inner being, which comes out of the teaching in the Mahayana Buddhist tradition of dependent co-arising. So he likes, I remember this was the first thing I read of his when I was 16 years old, the first teaching, and he talks about a piece of paper. He says, if we look deeply into this piece of paper, we can see, we don't have to be a poet, and we can see that there is a logger, that there's a tree, that there's the sun, that there's the rain, that there's the logger's family, there's the bread that the logger ate. And if we keep looking more and more deeply, we can find that the entire universe exists within this sheet of paper. So there's this sense of things arise together to manifest what we see. And one of the things that I love that he says about Buddhism along this lines of inner being is that Buddhism is made only of non-Buddhist elements. So, if you take Buddhism and you think of it as an idea, a thing, and that's what it is, it's an idea, but it's made only of non-Buddhist elements. So, if we took things out, it wouldn't be Buddhism anymore. If we took Christianity out, Buddhism wouldn't be Buddhism. You know, if we took many of the other traditions out, Buddhism wouldn't be Buddhism. It wouldn't be the Buddhism that we call Buddhism today. You know, so it's this sense and the important idea of seeing that just like this sheet of paper, if we took the sun out, the sheet of paper wouldn't be able to exist. If we took the tree out, if we took the logger out, the sheet of paper wouldn't be here. So Buddhism is only made of non-Buddhist elements. So it's a real, something that we can remember as we kind of look deeply. And for myself, when I look at our traditions here, and seeing that my tradition is only made of non-my tradition elements. You know, and this is where I think such an intra-faith dialogue is so rich, interfaith dialogues as well. So I'll share just a couple things about the practice in my tradition. One of the things that we really focus on in my tradition is really cultivating mindfulness in our daily lives, ways that we can bring mindfulness in our daily lives. Practicing to cultivate mindfulness while we sit, while we walk, while we eat, while we wash the dishes, while we go to the bathroom, you know, just recognizing that mindfulness is only made of non-mindfulness elements. So anything that we do, we bring mindfulness into it. There's no separation, no sense of separation, and no discrimination. So really being able to cultivate that sense of the sacred within every moment. And that's one thing we really try to do with our practice. One of the things that helps us is using gathas, maybe sometimes koans, these little poems that we use to help remind us of our practice, to come back to ourselves, to breathe, to cultivate that mindfulness within us. And a gatha could be something like, waking up this morning, 24 brand new hours are before me. Breathing in and out, I vow to live in mindfulness. You know, so we have this sense of cultivating and honing our attention in each moment in order to really bring that sense of mindfulness into each moment. And as our breath, and really bringing our awareness of our breathing, because as our breath becomes peaceful, our feelings become more peaceful, our body becomes more peaceful, our thoughts become more peaceful, our relationships, our interactions become more peaceful, It's just like the butterfly flapping its wings and South America changing the weather patterns up here. You know, so it's this sense of a real co-rising of elements together. Another thing I might mention in our tradition that one question that I find helpful that my teacher has given us is, that I'll give you tonight, which is very simple. It's, are you sure? So recognizing that a lot of our unhappiness, and I speak for myself too, a lot of my unhappiness, a lot of my sense of pain in the world comes from wrong perception. A lot of my anger comes from wrong perception. So this question, are you sure? Are you sure? Being able to ask ourselves that, to challenge our thoughts, to recognize that our thoughts are just thoughts. And that oftentimes our perception can mislead us, like mistaking rope for a snake. So just being able to cultivate mindfulness and looking more deeply through are you sure? So through the practice of mindfulness, we help to create a sense of calm, and through looking deeply, then we can begin to kind of unravel some of the fetters of our mind and our beliefs, get to know ourselves, and develop a friendliness with ourselves. So there's so much I could go on with here, but I'm feeling for myself that that's a full plate. So thank you, everybody.